Okay, I'm here to talk to you a little bit about a class that's going to be held at Hornet Hobbies in 2016. Um, it's called Box to the Battlefield, and it's a lessons on taking a tank from basically the box all the way to the battlefield. And I normally choose a Tamiya kit. This is a painting exercise as opposed to a construction exercise, and the Tamiya kits are so engineered that almost anyone can build them, and we can get through them pretty quick as far as assembly goes, and then have the enjoyment of about 5 or 6 classes of painting, chipping, decaling, applying different pigments. So this is the 10th year I'm doing it. I try to have 2 of these classes a year, and some of the gentlemen that have taken the class, I now see them winning all kinds of prizes at shows. So a little bit of foundation here at Box to the Battlefield sets up guys forever as far as learning good habits, keeping your models true and square right from the initial step. This year is great because we're going to have 2 guys here that are in their teens, and they're on their basic, almost their first or second model. So it's fantastic. So one of the very first things and the first class we ever do is take the gentleman through making a model that's going to have no bumps in it. There's going to be their barrels are going to have no seams in them. All the little things where you nip off the plastic from the sprues, the tank parts, all those are going to be sanded properly. When the guys put their tracks on, they're not going to be pigeon-toed. They're going to be square and true. So we're going to walk through and talk at length about basic modeling skills in the first class. And these are so important. These can make or break a model down the road. I've been a judge all over the world traveling with the guys from World Expo, which started in 1993 and has gone to different cities and countries throughout the world. And I've been judging at a few of those, and obviously here in the neighborhood. And 90% of the models that don't win a prize are because of basic modeling skills that are lacking. So it has nothing to do with the actual color schemes, because I'm not too worried about what the paint schemes are. Most of these tanks have been photographed in black and white film. Yes, we can go to archival dialogues and books and see that they were actually painted in a certain color, but all these things change. Sunlight and length of time on the battlefield will alter all those colors. So I'm not too concerned if things are a shade off here or there as far as judging goes. I'm more concerned in the initial judging process of making sure that things are true and square. And it's vital with all models. The airplane guys have really set it off properly. I mean, they make sure that the wings are square, wheels sit underneath the airplane square, all that sort of thing. And it just makes you a better modeler. Your model will appear better in the end. You don't want to have a track that's made out of plastic, Tamiya plastic tracks that have all the little burrs, 100 burrs on each side of your tank. So all those things are the initial class as far as explaining why and what to do about making your model, basic modeling skills, why they're so important and why they come first before moving on to other things. So let me just give you a little background of myself. I started modeling probably when I was 6 or 7. Went to Woolworth's at Eglinton and Young in the 60s and picked up this model This is an Aurora Panther tank. Cost price probably $1, maybe a little more than $1, maybe $1.50. And here it is 45 years later, and Tamiya has produced the same kit, and it's only $45, so about $1 a year. But it's an inexpensive hobby once you gather all the tools and you get your airbrush and your paints and everything. Your paints are going to last you 4 or 5 models. Your airbrush is going to last you a lifetime. And the tools that you use, if you buy quality tools, you're going to get quality results with them, and they're going to last. So Box to the Battlefield is a class given at Hornet Hobbies. It covers about 6 to 8 weeks, and we're going to discuss some of the tools needed to, and probably tools that are already in your inventory at home. There's no need to purchase anything when you join Box to the Battlefield other than sign up for the classes. The tools necessary are cutters, side cutters to take the model pieces off the trees, and then we'll sand the little burrs that remain behind, so that everyone will need a set of side cutters. There's also a pin vise is mandatory for all modeling, whether it's aircraft, ships, automobiles, tanks. You should always have a pin vise. You're always going to have a call for a pin vise, and there's a few companies that make them. To me, goes down to at least a number 80 drill bit, so it's a fabulous pin vise. Stir sticks, again, not necessary, but you can use obviously toothpicks and a 4-inch steel nail, and also stir sticks. So, and these are also great for making scratches on the tanks if you're using the hairspray technique, which will be demonstrated during the classes, probably class number 3, which is in a couple weeks from now. So anyway, so there's a few little tools you need. Obviously, decal scissors. Again, this isn't necessary early in the program, but down the line when you're applying the decals onto the tanks, airplanes, ships, and what have you, you're going to need decal scissors. The key to these is that they're so fine, but you can't cheat and accidentally cut different things. Strictly use these in your toolbox for decals only. Keep them nice and sharp. And tweezers, there's whether it's a Dragon kit or Bronco, have fine parts. AFE Club as well has fine parts in their model kits. So a good set of tweezers is always necessary as well. Glues, we all use all kinds of glues in our modeling process. There's different applications for different glues, such as photo etch. You'd use probably a CA glue. For general assembly, polystyrene glue. So obviously you're going to need that. Paints. And as far as painting goes, I always thin with a lacquer paint. And there's a couple on the market that I like. There's lacquer thinner by Tamiya, and there's also a leveling thinner by Gunzi. Both are excellent thinners. And a lot of people use 20X Tamiya thinner, and I recommend that we switch to your lacquer. Lacquer based thinners are excellent to thin acrylic paints. Okay, the first thing after assembly of the tank is going to be to prime it. So if we have it's sitting here in bare plastic, I like to prime my models. And what primer will do is it will expose any imperfections that I've done while assembly, such as little burrs that I haven't sanded properly, or any number of things, a little dog hair or anything. The primer will expose that. And what do I mean by that? Once the model is primed, study it. Study the surface. Make sure that it's absolutely pristine. And then carry on with the painted coats of the tank. This process is going to take an examination. Even if you get out your little magnifying glass and examine the surface, making sure there's nothing on the body of the tank, then you proceed to the next step. Now the primers I prefer to use this out of the spray can. It's simple to use. It's extremely fine. Doesn't hide any detail. It's an aerosol application and very simple. And here's a result of using that on this turret. And I always choose white. I choose white for this reason. Tamiya make a gray primer and a white primer. Now most shadows when they fall have the color of gray. And if I have already got the body of the tank or the body of the model gray, when a shadow will fall, it'll almost camouflage with gray primer, as far as I'm concerned. So I always use white, and then the shadow will fall, and then I can easily detect it. With gray primer, it's a little harder to detect a little snag in your model. So that's why I've always chosen to use white. And there's a couple on the market. There's Tamiya Aerosol, and there's Stynal Res, which is a fantastic primer. Has to be, most of the time has to be airbrushed. Comes in a few colors, my favorite being white, but it comes in black as well, and it comes in gray. And it's an excellent product, hard as a rock, and very, very good primer is the Stynal Res. Okay, so one more word about the primer. The primers can go right over top of photo etch as well. These are not just plastic primers, they're also metal primers. And you can read it on the can here for plastic and or metal. The metal representing the photo etch. So if you have a tank beautifully covered in photo etch, don't hesitate to use this type of primer. It will behave properly. The other thing, if you're a little bit nervous about that, while your model is in the primer, believe it or not, you can also, where your photo etch is, spray a little dab of Future over top of the primer and over top of the photo etch parts. And the Future floor wax, which is hard to find on the market these days, just has a little more grip so that if your photo etch gets nicked or anything, it won't dig down right into the brass primer and have a shiny spot on your tank. If you cover it with primer and then Future, it likely won't take a bang at all and expose bare metal.